Right, let's talk about equivalent fractions and what they are. So I've got a rectangle here. It's not broken into any parts. It's all one whole piece, okay? It's one whole unit. If I took that same rectangle and split it in half, I've now got two separate pieces, and each piece as a fraction is represented by 1/2. Let's take it and split it again. So now I'm going to split each half into half, and you'll see that across the whole unit I have 4 pieces. In other words, I've broken it into quarters, and each piece is represented by 1/4. I could do the same thing again, and now I've got 1/8. So there are 8 pieces representing my whole unit now. And I've split each quarter in half to get an eighth. And you could go on and on and on, for a long time, getting smaller and smaller fractions. So the idea here is that you'll see, if I look at everything in this red box, these are all the same size. In other words, 2/4 is the same as a half. 1, 2, 3, 4/8 is also the same as a half. Or 2/8 is the same as 1/4. And we call these equivalent fractions. So in other words, I've said 1/2 is the same thing as 2/4. I can see that relationship here, which is the same thing as 4/8, because I've got my half made up of 1, 2, 3, 4/8. So to write them out, I've got a half is the same thing as 2/4, which is the same thing as 4/8. We call these things equivalent fractions. They are fractions that represent the same magnitude or the same value. They're just written differently. You might get some questions asking you to work with equivalent fractions. So something like this: write 1/2 with a denominator of 8. So in other words, write the fraction a half with 8 on the bottom. Okay, so we're looking for an equivalent fraction that is something over 8. What did I do to get from 2 to 8? Well, 2 times 4 will give me 8. Whatever I have to do on the bottom to get this up to this denominator, I have to do the same on the top. So if 2 times 4 gives me 8, my top will be 1 times 4, which gives me 4. So 1/2 written with the denominator of 8 is 4/8. They are equivalent fractions. Last example, what if you were asked to write 8/20 in its simplest form? So in other words, find another fraction that is equivalent to 8/20 that has the smallest denominator you can come up with. All we do here is we find the highest common factor of both numbers. So what's the highest common factor of 8 and 20? In other words, what's the largest whole number that I could fit evenly into both of those? Well, it's 4, because 4 fits into 8 and 4 fits into 20. I take that highest common factor and I just simply divide each number by that. So in other words, 8 divided by 4 on the top, 20 divided by 4 on the bottom gives me an answer of 2/5, because 8 divided by 4 equals 2 and 20 divided by 4 equals 5. So 8/20 and 2/5 are equivalent fractions, and 2/5 is that fraction written in its simplest form. All right, well done. That is equivalent fractions.